Hey guys, tonight we're not just traveling back in time, we're falling. Imagine you're standing at the precipice of a canyon in the Pleistocene epoch, the air thick with the scent of ferns and damp earth. You don't have to jump. The ground beneath you just isn't there anymore. You're tumbling into a primordial jungle, a world built on a scale that defies your modern imagination. Above you, the canopy is a solid, leafy ceiling, and through the dappled light, you see things that shouldn't exist. Birds the size of small airplanes, crocodiles that could swallow a rhinoceros whole, and plants so alien they look like something a fever dream coughed up. This is a world where you are not the apex predator. In fact, you're not even on the food chain. You're just a snack, a footnote in the grand, terrifying menu of this age. One misstep, one rustle in the wrong thicket, and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, drop a comment with your location and what time it is for you right now. It's always wild to see how far these sounds travel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel the impact of your descent, not as a jolt, but as a slow, soft landing on a bed of decaying leaves. The air is warm and heavy, with humidity, a constant, close embrace. You push yourself to your feet, your boots sinking into the spongy, fertile ground. The silence is profound, the kind that only exists when there are no human sounds to fill it. But it's not empty. You hear the creak of enormous tree limbs, the deep, guttural sigh of some unseen creature, and the subtle, rhythmic sh-thump, sh-thump of something impossibly large moving nearby. You peer through the tangle of undergrowth, and that's when you see it. It's a shadow at first, a shifting mass of dark fur and muscle, so big it blots out the light. It's not a hallucination. This is Megatherium americanum, the giant ground sloth. It stands on its hind legs, towering over the forest floor, like a furry animate statue. It's not a slow, gentle creature from a cartoon. It's a mountain, a 7-ton mountain with claws the size of scythes. You could stand inside one of its footprints and still have room to pace. This isn't the sloth you're used to seeing in a zoo hanging languidly from a branch. No, this one's on the ground, and it's not looking for a nap. It's looking for dinner. And this, you quickly realize, is a full-time job. A beast of this magnitude, with a body mass that would make a modern elephant look like a pony, requires a caloric intake that's almost incomprehensible. You watch as it reaches up with one of its massive hooked claws. It's not just a grabber. It's a tool, a weapon, a specialized piece of evolutionary engineering. With a single fluid motion, it hooks a low-hanging branch of a tree and snaps it clean off. The sound is like a gunshot echoing through the dense foliage. But the sloth doesn't seem to notice. Its attention is singular, focused entirely on the prize. It brings the branch to its mouth and with a few powerful chews strips it bare. It's a study in efficient, brutal consumption. This is a world where you can see the sheer, unadulterated power of a prehistoric herbivore. Historians still argue whether the Megatherium was a true omnivore, a strict herbivore, or a facultative carnivore. This debate is based on scant, sometimes conflicting evidence from coprolites, fossilized feces, basically, and skeletal remains. Some suggest its immense size and powerful claws could have been used for more than just stripping leaves, perhaps for scavenging carcasses, or even actively hunting smaller prey. But its primary role, its evolutionary niche, was clearly as a browser. It was the great lawnmower of the prehistoric world, a moving deforestation machine. Think of it less as a gentle grazer and more as a walking bulldozer, meticulously clearing a path and a meal in one go. You step back, trying to stay out of its line of sight. The air shimmers around it, a testament to the heat radiating from its huge body. You see a tick the size of your thumb crawling sluggishly across its matted, coarse fur. It's a reminder that this is a fully functioning ecosystem, a place where even the parasites are supersized. It's easy to get lost in the grand scale of it all, but the truth is, this giant sloth's survival hinged on the smallest, most mundane details, like the constant availability of its favorite plants. Its immense size was its strength, allowing it to reach food sources no other creature could, but it was also its Achilles heel. It needed to eat and eat and eat, and any interruption to that cycle could spell disaster. As you watch it move on, leaving a trail of broken branches and stripped leaves in its wake, you realize you're not just observing an extinct animal. You're observing a walking, breathing, foraging mystery. And the story of its extinction is a lot more complicated than you might think. The Megatherium lumbers forward its weight, causing the earth to tremble with each step. You stay low, pressed against the root system of an ancient tree, a silent observer in this colossal creature's world. It's a study in scale, you a small, insignificant thing, and it a living, breathing landscape feature. You notice the way it moves, a ponderous, almost lazy shuffle that belies its immense strength. It's not running from anything. In this world, few things would dare to challenge it. Its defense is its size, its sheer, terrifying immensity. And those claws. You can't look away from them. They are not just for defense. They are its primary tools for survival, an organic Swiss Army knife designed for one thing: eating. You watch as it approaches a thick, woody vine, one that's wrapped around the trunk of a massive tree like a sleeping serpent. The vine is far too thick for you to break even with a modern-day axe. But the sloth doesn't need an axe. With one claw, it hooks the vine and pulls. The sound is a low, groaning complaint of wood and fiber under impossible stress. The vine holds for a moment, then with a sound like a wet towel being ripped, it snaps. The sloth begins to methodically strip the bark, a fibrous meal that to you looks completely indigestible. But to the sloth, it's a delicacy, a constant, abundant source of roughage. The slowness, you realize, is a deception. It's not slow because it's lazy. It's slow because it doesn't have to be fast. It's a walking testament to the idea that patience and power can conquer all. The sloth's menu, you learn as you track its movements, is anything but boring. While its primary diet seems to be leaves, twigs, and bark, you see it do something unexpected. It stops at a large, rounded fruit lying on the ground. It's a species you don't recognize, but it looks like a prehistoric pumpkin. The sloth sniffs it, then with one of its immense feet it stomps down. The fruit explodes with a squelching sound, and the air fills with a sweet, pungent aroma. The sloth begins to lap up the pulp and cedes a temporary sugar boost to its otherwise fibrous diet. Mainstream historical fact, the Megatherium possessed a highly specialized set of teeth called hypsodont molars, which were constantly growing. This adaptation was crucial for its diet. Chewing tough, gritty plant material like bark and fibrous leaves would have worn down a normal set of teeth in no time, but the sloth's ever-growing teeth meant it had a built-in replacement system. It was a perfect piece of evolutionary engineering for a world of tough, woody plants. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sheer power of the sloth's jaws and its massive size have led some researchers to theorize that it wasn't just a forager, but a gardener. The sloth's habit of consuming large, tough seeds and then later well dispersing them could have played a crucial role in the spread of certain plant species. It wasn't just eating. It was actively shaping the landscape, fertilizing it, and helping its favorite foods grow. Think of it as a walking 7-ton seed dispersal unit. It's a symbiotic relationship on a grand scale, with the sloth getting a meal and the plant getting a ride and a good head start. Historians still argue whether this was a conscious, intentional relationship or just a happy accident of nature. Was the sloth a conscious steward of its environment or a mindless eating machine? It's an open, scholarly debate that for now remains unanswered. As the sloth moves on, you follow, keeping a respectful distance. It's a journey into the heart of a food chain. You don't understand a culinary map of a lost world. The sloth's world is a complex tapestry of plant life, and it knows exactly what it's looking for. You see it bypass some plants with a glance, and others it devours with a voracious appetite. It's a connoisseur of the prehistoric palate, and its survival depends on its ability to navigate this lush larder. The mystery, you realize, isn't just about what it ate, but why. It ate what it did. What made one plant a delicacy and another a last resort, and what happened when its favorite meals started to disappear. The giant sloth continues its slow, methodical feast, and you, a tiny spectator, are learning more about its inner workings than you ever thought you would. You've already seen its teeth in action, those perpetually growing molars that are the biological equivalent of a self-sharpening knife. But the real magic, you realize, is happening deeper inside. It's a digestive system designed for the kind of meals that would give a modern nutritionist nightmares. Think about it, a diet of bark, tough leaves, and fibrous vines. This isn't just about chewing. It's about breaking down material that seems on the surface entirely indigestible. Mainstream historical fact: the Megatherium had a gut that was likely home to a complex ecosystem of microorganisms. Just like a cow or a termite, it would have relied on this internal microscopic workforce to ferment and break down the tough plant cellulose, extracting every last bit of energy from its low-quality diet. Its stomach was essentially a giant, self-contained composting machine. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sloth's digestive process was so thorough and so slow that its fossilized dung, known as coprolites, often contains beautifully preserved plant fragments. These aren't just bits of chewed-up leaves. Sometimes you can see the intricate cellular structure of the plants, a microscopic snapshot of a lost world. It's like finding a perfectly preserved meal from 10,000 years ago still on the plate, a dinner no one ever finished. This is how we know what it ate, what a meticulous fossil record its waste created. It's a slightly gross but incredibly useful scientific tool. You can practically hear a bored paleontologist in a lab somewhere sighing, "Oh, look, another perfectly preserved piece of millennia-old poop. My life is so glamorous." You remember that a sloth from your time, the one you're used to seeing on nature shows, has a notoriously slow metabolism, which is why it moves so languidly. The giant sloth, you realize, is the opposite. Its movements are slow, not due to a sluggish metabolism, but due to its sheer mass. To sustain a body this size, its metabolic engine must have been roaring constantly, burning through calories. But how did it do that on a diet of what is essentially tree bark? Historians still argue whether the Megatherium's sheer bulk and unique gut biome created a kind of slow-burn energy production system, allowing it to move and function without needing the high-octane fuels of a modern omnivore. Was it a marvel of efficiency, or was its immense size a constant, desperate battle for calories? It's an open, scholarly debate that highlights the fact that even with a perfect fossil record, some questions about the lives of these animals will remain a mystery. As you continue to observe, you see the sloth pull down another branch, a different kind of foliage this time. It chews with a grinding, deliberate motion, the sound like 1,000 millstones working in unison. You notice the way its jaw moves, not just up and down, but with a side-to-side motion that would make a dental hygienist proud. It's not just crushing its food, it's pulverizing it, grinding it into a fine paste to aid its gut flora. It's a masterclass in biomechanical efficiency, a living, breathing food processor. You remember how you had a tiny, nagging toothache the other day, and you think about this sloth with its ever-growing teeth, and you can't help but be a little jealous. No cavities for this guy, just a lifetime of fresh grinding enamel ready for the next meal. The mystery of the sloth's larder isn't just about what's on the menu. It's about the sophisticated and often bizarre ways its body processed that food. The low rumbling sound of the giant sloth chewing its way through the jungle is a constant companion. As you follow its path, you start to notice that it's not alone. This primeval world is full of other giants, and their paths inevitably cross. You see a large, heavily armored creature with a dome-shaped shell and a spiked tail, a glyptodon. It's a walking tank, a herbivore like the sloth, but its foraging method is completely different. It's low to the ground, a slow, meticulous bulldozer of grasses and low-lying shrubs. You realize this is a kind of competition, a silent struggle for resources, but one without overt conflict. They are two different machines designed for two different jobs. The sloth, the high-level browser, the glyptodon, the ground-level mower. A perfect system of resource partitioning until something breaks it. Then you see a flash of gold and shadow. A creature moves with a grace that seems almost impossible for its size. It's a saber-toothed cat, a smilodon, and it's watching the sloth. Its eyes are fixed on the behemoth, not with an intention to attack, but with a cautious, almost respectful distance. Mainstream historical fact. Despite its immense size, the Megatherium was not immune to predation, though adult, healthy individuals would have been a dangerous last-resort meal for any predator. Juvenile or sick sloths, however, were another story. The smilodon and the giant short-faced bear were two of the primary predators of this era, and they would have likely targeted the vulnerable. It's a simple, brutal reality of the food chain, a fact of life in this world of giants. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sloth's claws, those terrifying tools for foraging, would have also been its primary defense. A single swipe from one of those claws could have disemboweled a predator. So while you might think of a sloth as a passive, defensive animal, the giant sloth was anything but. It was a walking fortress, a creature that could not only fend for itself, but inflict serious, even fatal damage on anything that dared to challenge it. The fossil record shows a few smilodon remains with broken bones and punctured skulls, injuries that some scientists believe could have come from a defensive swipe by a giant sloth. A good reminder that you should probably stay a good 10 paces away from something that can tear through armor like it's a wet napkin. Historians still argue whether these giant herbivores and carnivores existed in a kind of uneasy truce, or if there were more frequent violent conflicts. Was the presence of a smilodon enough to make the sloth alter its foraging path, or did it just lumber on knowing it had nothing to fear? It's an open, scholarly debate that hinges on a few scratched bones and a lot of educated guesswork. As the sun begins to dip below the canopy, casting long, strange shadows through the forest, the air cools and the sounds of the jungle shift. The sloth, its stomach full, finds a thick patch of foliage and begins to settle down for the night. You, however, are now aware of the complex web of life that surrounds it. It's not just a solo act, it's a member of a cast of characters, a player in a drama that has been unfolding for millions of years. Its meal is not just a meal, it's a negotiation, a statement of its place in the ecosystem. And its safety isn't guaranteed, not even for a creature of its size. The jungle is a beautiful and brutal place, and you, a modern visitor, are now intimately aware of just how much of a luxury your own safety is. You've witnessed the colossal Megatherium's daily grind, its methodical bulldozing of the jungle's flora. But as you spend more time with it, you notice a rhythm to its movements, a pattern dictated by a force far greater than its own will the seasons. This isn't a static, unchanging world. It's a dynamic living system, and the sloth's diet is its main logbook. During this lush, wet season, the air is thick with the scent of blossoming flowers and the sweet decay of fallen fruit. Food is everywhere, a constant green buffet. The sloth is in its element, gorging on the most succulent leaves and the most nutrient-dense berries. It's a time of plenty, and its immense body, you realize, is a testament to this abundance. But you're about to witness a shift. As the days grow hotter and the rains become less frequent, the landscape starts to change. The vibrant greens of the forest floor begin to fade to a dusty, brittle brown. The streams that once flowed freely become little more than muddy puddles. This is the dry season, and it's a completely different kind of challenge for a creature that needs to eat its body weight in food every few days. The sloth's menu, you realize, is no longer a choice of delicacies, but a calculation of survival. It can no longer be picky. Mainstream historical fact: the bull, Megatherium, like many large herbivores, was likely a seasonal forager, its diet shifting from lush, leafy greens in the wet season to tougher, more fibrous plants in the dry season. Fossil evidence, particularly from the pollen and plant matter found in coprolites, confirms this. During the dry season, the sloth would have relied more heavily on tough, woody parts of plants, like bark and stems, as well as the root systems it could dig up with its massive claws. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. Some researchers believe the giant sloth had a unique adaptation to survive these lean times. They speculate that its immense size and slow metabolism allowed it to enter a state of torpor similar to hibernation, but on a much smaller scale. By slowing down its bodily functions, it could stretch its caloric reserves and survive long periods of food scarcity. Imagine a 7-ton creature just deciding, you know what? I'll just take a long nap until the rains come back. And it's a fascinating, if unproven, theory that speaks to the unique ways these animals adapted to their environments. Historians still argue whether the Megatherium was a migratory creature, following the rains and the lush vegetation across vast distances, or if it was a more sedentary animal, simply hunkering down and toughing it out until the next wet season. Was its range confined to a specific area, or did it traverse entire continents in search of its next meal? It's an open, scholarly debate that highlights the difficulty of mapping the habits of a creature that no longer exists. As the dry season intensifies, you watch the sloth forage with a different kind of urgency. It's no longer just browsing. It's excavating. With its massive claws, it tears into the dry earth, digging for roots and tubers, a last-ditch effort for sustenance. The air is filled with the scent of dry soil and the sound of its labored breathing. You realize that its lush larder isn't just about the plants. It's about the ever-changing availability of those plants. Its entire existence is a constant push and pull with the forces of nature, a daily battle to keep its enormous engine running. Its survival, you understand, is a delicate dance between feast and famine. And as you watch it, tirelessly dig, you realize the greatest mystery of all might be not what killed it, but how it managed to survive for so long. The giant sloth continues its slow-motion trek through the parched landscape, a testament to its immense will to survive. But as you follow, you notice the dangers aren't just from hungry predators. The environment itself is a treacherous adversary, and the search for food is a constant, perilous dance. The ground, once soft and forgiving, is now a cracked, dusty mess with hidden perils lurking just beneath the surface. You watch as the sloth, a creature of habit, trudges toward a patch of what looks like lush green grass, a welcome sight in this arid world. But you know better. You can see the slight shimmer of water vapor, the telltale sign of a swampy, boggy area. Mainstream historical fact. During the Pleistocene epoch, vast areas of what is now dry land were covered in wetlands, bogs, and tar pits. These natural traps were a constant danger for megafauna like the Megatherium. The weight of a giant sloth, combined with the instability of the ground, could easily lead to it becoming stuck a predicament that would almost certainly lead to its death, either from exhaustion, starvation, or a passing predator taking advantage of its helplessness. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sloth's sheer size and its constant need for food meant it had to take risks. It couldn't just avoid every patch of soft ground or every murky pool. Its caloric demands were too great. Some scientists have speculated that the sloth may have developed a kind of sixth sense for ground stability, using its massive weight and deliberate movements to test the ground before committing to a step. Imagine a 7-ton creature, a walking seismic meter, feeling its way through a treacherous landscape. It's a testament to how specialized these animals had to be to survive in a world that was both a larder and a potential grave. Historians still argue whether the Megatherium's extinction was hastened by these environmental traps. Did a series of unusually dry or wet seasons lead to an increase in these death traps, decimating the population? Or were they a constant, manageable threat? It's an open, scholarly debate that reminds us that even with a robust fossil record, we can't always know the specific day-to-day challenges these animals faced. As the sloth approaches the bog, it stops. Its massive head lifts its small eyes, seeming to scan the ground with a deliberation that's almost human. It lets out a low, mournful sigh, a sound that echoes through the stillness. It's the sound of disappointment, of a meal denied. It turns and lumbers away, choosing the long, hard path over the short, treacherous one. You realize that its foraging isn't just about finding food. It's about a constant risk assessment. Every step is a calculated gamble, every meal a potential trap. You see a flash of bone and a glint of what might be a saber tooth half buried in the mud near the edge of the bog, a grim reminder of a past victim. This isn't just about finding a meal, it's about not becoming one. The giant sloth's life was a constant negotiation with a world that was trying in 100 different ways to kill it. And as it moves on, you realize its foraging journey is as much about avoiding danger as it is about finding a meal. You followed the giant sloth on its slow, deliberate journey, watching it strip trees of leaves and dig for roots. You've come to understand it as the ultimate herbivore, a walking bulldozer designed for a plant-based world. But what if that wasn't the whole story? What if this immense, placid-looking creature had a secret, a taste for something other than foliage? You find yourself at a small clearing, and the air, which was once filled with the scent of damp earth and greenery, is now tainted with a new metallic smell, the smell of blood. Lying half hidden in the undergrowth is the carcass of a macrauchenia, a strange camel-like creature with a short trunk. It's been torn apart, likely by a pack of saber-toothed cats, but they've moved on, leaving what they couldn't finish. You watch as the giant sloth, which has been rummaging through a nearby bush, catches the scent. Its small head lifts its nostrils, flaring. It doesn't charge, it doesn't roar, it just changes course. It approaches the carcass with a surprising lack of trepidation. Its massive claws, the same ones you've seen, tear branches from trees, now move with a new purpose. It nudges the carcass, then with a surprising delicacy begins to pull at a piece of sinew, a bloody red string hanging from the torn flesh. It doesn't eat the meat itself, but it seems to be interested in the remnants, the bits and pieces the other predators have left behind. Mainstream historical fact. While the Megatherium is overwhelmingly considered a herbivore, some evidence from its teeth and jaw structure, and the occasional discovery of fossilized dung with trace amounts of animal protein has led to a fascinating and highly debated theory that it may have been a facultative carnivore. This means it wasn't a hunter, but it may have occasionally supplemented its diet with carrion, or even small vertebrates, if the opportunity arose, particularly during lean times. Think of it less as a lion and more as a giant furry scavenger, a prehistoric vacuum cleaner for the forest floor. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. One of the key arguments for this scavenging theory is the sheer size of the sloth. A creature this big would have had a massive digestive system capable of handling a lot of different things. Some scientists speculate that a giant sloth that came across a kill would have been able to scare off smaller predators and consume what was left a low-effort, high-reward caloric jackpot. It's the ultimate lazy man's meal plan. Historians still argue whether this behavior was a common opportunistic part of its diet or a rare desperate measure. Was it a regular feature of its survival strategy, or was it a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, a fluke that only happened when a sloth was starving? It's an open, scholarly debate that reminds us that the lives of these animals were far more complex and nuanced than we can ever fully grasp. The sloth continues to nose at the carcass, but it doesn't stay long. The meat is too tough, the effort too great. It moves on back to the familiar, reliable fare of leaves and bark. You realize that its reputation as a gentle giant might be a bit of a myth. It was a survivor, a creature that did what it had to do to keep its immense body running, and in a world where food was a constant challenge, nothing was off the table. You've witnessed the giant sloth's surprising dietary flexibility, from fibrous bark to the occasional opportunistic snack of carrion. But its relationship with the plants of this world goes far deeper than a simple eater and eaten dynamic. As you follow the sloth through a particularly dense thicket of unfamiliar flora, you notice it's not just consuming. It's interacting in a way that's almost symbiotic. It approaches a large bulbous fruit that hangs low on a vine, a fruit that seems too tough for any of the smaller herbivores to breach. With its massive claws, the sloth tears the fruit open, revealing a cache of large hard seeds embedded in a sweet pulp. It eats the pulp and some of the seeds, and as it does, a number of the seeds fall to the ground, scattered in the disturbed earth. Mainstream historical fact, the Megatherium was a crucial mega-herbivore in its ecosystem, and its role as a seed disperser is one of its most important legacies. By consuming large fruits, and then later depositing the seeds in a new location, often with a nice little pile of natural fertilizer, the sloth helped certain plant species colonize new areas. This coevolutionary relationship meant the sloth got a meal and the plant got a ride, and a much better chance at survival. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The seeds of many of the plants from this era, a number of which are now extinct, were incredibly tough and durable, almost as if they were designed to survive the journey through a giant sloth's gut. Some scientists believe that these plants and the sloths evolved together, with the plants developing tougher seeds and the sloths developing tougher teeth and more powerful digestive systems in a kind of evolutionary arms race for mutual benefit. It's like a prehistoric vending machine, where the sloth was the customer and the plant was the perfect snack designed to be eaten and dispersed. Historians still argue whether this coevolutionary relationship was a driver of speciation. Did the sloth's presence allow certain plant species to thrive and diversify, or was the relationship a more passive, accidental one? Was the sloth a crucial part of the reproductive cycle of certain plants, or could those plants have survived just fine without it? It's an open, scholarly debate that underscores the complex, interconnected nature of ancient ecosystems. You remember a similar relationship in the modern world between elephants and the baobab tree. The elephants eat the fruit, and their waste disperses the seeds, a beautiful example of nature's ancient partnerships. As you watch the sloth move on, leaving a trail of scattered seeds behind it, you realize its footprint is far greater than the size of its body. It wasn't just an animal living in a world. It was a shaper of that world. It was a landscaper, a gardener, a seed planter, on a scale you can't even comprehend. Its daily meal wasn't just sustenance. It was an act of creation, a constant, ongoing contribution to the health and diversity of the ecosystem around it. The mystery of the sloth's larder isn't just about what it ate, but what its eating created. And as you look at the tiny, scattered seeds, you can't help but wonder what those seeds would have grown into if only the sloth had survived. You've observed the giant sloth's foraging habits, its digestive prowess, and its symbiotic relationship with the plants it consumes. But as the seasons continue to shift and the landscape around you changes, a new mystery presents itself. The sloth, on its endless search for sustenance, is passing by plants that to your eyes seem perfectly edible and abundant. It's a type of large, leafy plant with broad green fronds, a species you've seen it devour with gusto in other more verdant areas. Yet here it seems to have no interest in them. It's a curious thing, this selectivity. It's not just a matter of feast or famine. It's a matter of preference, or something even more cryptic. This leads to a quiet, unsettling thought. What if the plant itself has changed? Mainstream historical fact. The Megatherium was a creature that existed for millions of years, and during that time, its environment and the plants within it were constantly evolving. As plants developed new defenses, such as tougher leaves or a bitter taste, or even a higher concentration of toxins, the sloth's diet would have had to adapt. This phenomenon is known as coevolutionary arms race, where the plant evolves to be less palatable, and the herbivore evolves to overcome that defense. The sloth's passing by a seemingly abundant food source could be a sign of a shift in the plant's chemistry, making it undesirable or even dangerous. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. Some scientists speculate that the sloth may have had a kind of chemical map of its foraging grounds, a learned knowledge of which plants were safe to eat and which were not. The sloth's small brain might not suggest a high level of cognitive ability, but its survival depended on a deep, intuitive understanding of its environment. It's a kind of inherited or learned wisdom passed down through generations, a culinary roadmap of the forest. The fact that it's ignoring a plant that seems perfectly edible to you suggests a level of sophistication in its foraging that goes beyond simple hunger. Historians still argue whether the sloth's dietary shifts were primarily driven by environmental change or by the coevolutionary pressures of the plants themselves. Was the sloth a reactive creature, simply eating what was available, or was it a proactive one, constantly adapting to a changing menu? It's an open, scholarly debate that highlights the difficulty of separating the animal's choices from the environmental pressures that shape them. As you continue to track the sloth, you see it finally settle on a patch of tough, thorny bushes, a meal that seems far less appealing than the leafy plant it passed by. It chews with a grinding, deliberate motion, the sound a low, grating complaint. You realize that the sloth's lush larder isn't just a simple list of ingredients. It's a complex, ever-changing menu dictated by a constant, unseen war between eater and eaten. The mystery of the missing morsel isn't just about what the sloth ate, but about the things it chose not to eat and why. Its extinction, you begin to suspect, might be less about a lack of food and more about a change in the quality or safety of the food that was available. It's a subtle, almost imperceptible shift that over time could have had catastrophic consequences. You've journeyed with the giant sloth through its lush and at times treacherous larder, but its story and the mystery of its diet can't be told without a greater understanding of the world it lived in. You've noticed the changing landscape, the ebb and flow of seasons, but there's a larger, more dramatic event at play one that reshaped entire continents and created a new kind of world for the Megatherium. You're standing at the edge of what will one day be Central America, a land bridge in the making, and you can almost feel the continents grinding together. This is the Great American Faunal Interchange, a period of immense geological and biological upheaval. As the land bridge formed, a new world of opportunity and competition opened up. The fauna of North and South America, which had been evolving in isolation for millions of years, suddenly came into contact. You see animals you don't recognize, strange creatures from the north moving south and others from the south moving north. The sloth, a creature of South American origin, is now encountering new species and a new menu. Mainstream historical fact: the Megatherium was a native of South America, but during the Great American Faunal Interchange, it was one of the many species that migrated north, colonizing what is now North America. This migration meant that the sloth had to adapt to new environments and, most importantly, new food sources. Its lush tropical larder was suddenly a temperate, changing one with new types of plants and new kinds of competition. This was a crucial test of its adaptability, a challenge that its ancestors had never faced. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sloth's immense size, which was an advantage in its native South America, may have been a disadvantage in the new, more competitive North. It would have faced new predators and competitors, and its sheer size meant it needed more food, making it more vulnerable to scarcity. Some scientists believe that while the sloth was an evolutionary success story in South America, its journey north was the beginning of the end. It was like a picky eater moving to a new country and finding the local cuisine just a little too different. Historians still argue whether the sloth's diet adapted to its new surroundings, or if it simply relied on the few familiar food sources that existed in its new home. Did it become a generalist, eating whatever was available, or did it remain a specialist seeking out specific plants that were common to both continents? It's an open, scholarly debate that highlights the difficulty of tracking a creature that roamed across an entire continent. The mystery of the sloth's diet isn't just about what it ate. It's about how its menu changed and how it was forced to adapt to a new world. The arrival of new animals, both competitors and potential meals, reshaped its entire existence. And you, a silent witness to this great exchange, are starting to see the true grand scale of the forces that shape the sloth's life, and ultimately its death. You've watched the giant sloth's foraging journey, a slow, methodical march across a prehistoric landscape. But how do we in our modern world know what it was eating? How can we reconstruct a menu from a world that has been gone for tens of thousands of years? The answer, you realize, lies not in the bones of the sloth itself, but in the ground beneath your feet. It's a painstaking process, a kind of forensic archaeology, and it's all about finding the clues that were left behind. You're standing in a cave, a place that was once a shelter for the sloth and its kind. The air is cool and still, and you can see layers upon layers of sediment, a history book written in rock and dust. The true secret to the sloth's diet is found in its waste. Mainstream historical fact, scientists rely heavily on coprolites, or fossilized dung, to reconstruct the diet of extinct animals. These remarkable fossils are a treasure trove of information containing microscopic fragments of plants' pollen and even the occasional seed or insect part. By carefully analyzing these remains, we can get a direct, undeniable glimpse into the sloth's last meals. It's a disgusting but incredibly useful piece of evidence, a direct line to a world that no longer exists. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The study of coprolites isn't just about the plant matter, it's also about what isn't there. The lack of certain plant types in the fossilized dung can tell us just as much as their presence. It can reveal dietary preferences, changes in the environment, or even the coevolution of plants that became too toxic for the sloth to eat. It's a scientific mystery that's solved by looking at the missing pieces of a puzzle. It's a reminder that sometimes the answer is found in the absence of evidence. You can practically hear a frustrated researcher muttering, "We know what it didn't eat, but what did it eat?" It's an ongoing process of elimination. Historians still argue whether the analysis of coprolites gives us a complete picture of the sloth's diet or just a snapshot of a single moment in time. Was the sloth that left this particular fossilized pile just having an off day, or was this its typical meal? It's an open, scholarly debate that highlights the limitations of the fossil record. And you, a silent observer in this ancient cave, are reminded that history is often incomplete, a series of tantalizing clues rather than a full narrative. The mystery of the sloth's diet isn't just about what it ate, but how we know what it ate. And the ground beneath your feet holds the most compelling evidence of all. You've delved into the forensic science of the sloth's diet, piecing together a menu from fossilized remains. But now you need to step back and look at a force even more powerful than the sloth's immense appetite: climate change. The world you're in isn't static. It's a living, breathing entity, a planet in constant flux. The air, once warm and humid, is now tinged with a cold, dry quality. The lush jungle is slowly giving way to a more temperate grassland, a shift that is as imperceptible as the melting of a glacier, but as profound as a geological cataclysm. The sloth, you realize, is a creature of a specific time and place. Its diet, its habits, and its very existence were a product of a warm, stable, interglacial period. But the planet is now moving into a new phase, a glacial maximum, and the sloth's larder is shrinking. Mainstream historical fact: the Pleistocene epoch was a time of dramatic climate fluctuations with periods of cold glacial expansion, followed by warmer interglacial periods. The giant sloth, a species that had evolved over millions of years, was perfectly adapted to the warmer climates. But as the glaciers advanced and the climate cooled, the lush tropical forests it relied on began to recede, replaced by open grasslands and taiga. This wasn't a quick, sudden change. It was a slow, inexorable march, a gradual loss of its primary food source. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. Some scientists speculate that the sloth's immense size, which was once an advantage in a world of abundant food, became a liability in this new, colder climate. A larger body requires more food to stay warm, and the sloth's low-quality fibrous diet may not have been able to provide the necessary calories. It was a metabolic mismatch, a creature designed for a feast in a world that was becoming a famine. It's the ultimate example of a species being too big for its britches. Historians still argue whether climate change alone would have been enough to cause the extinction of the giant sloth. Was its ability to adapt to new food sources enough to save it, or was the change simply too fast for it to keep up? It's an open, scholarly debate that reminds us that extinction is rarely the result of a single cause, but a combination of factors. As you feel the cold wind on your face, you see the sloth shivering its thick fur, not quite enough to ward off the chill. It's a sad sight, a creature out of time, a ghost, in a landscape that no longer supports it. The mystery of the sloth's larder isn't just about what it ate, but about the slow, agonizing death of its entire menu. And you, a silent witness, are watching it starve not from a lack of food, but from a lack of the right food. The air grows colder, the wind carries the scent of dry grass, and the landscape is becoming a monochrome study in brown and gray. The giant sloth, a once proud denizen of a lush world, now looks like a tired old shadow, a creature of another time. It's no longer the master of its environment. It's a prisoner of it. But the climate, you realize, isn't the only new player in this game. As you follow the sloth, a new unsettling presence enters the picture. You see a flicker of firelight, in the distance a tendril of smoke rising against the vast, empty sky. And you hear a new sound, the sound of human voices, not a roar or a grunt, but a low, intelligent chatter. This, you realize with a sinking feeling, is the final act. Mainstream historical fact. The arrival of Homo sapiens. In the Americas coincided with the final stages of the Pleistocene megafaunal extinction, while climate change was already putting immense pressure on species like the Megatherium. The arrival of humans with their advanced hunting techniques and tool use was likely the final nail in the coffin. We were a new kind of predator, a thinking one with a collective intelligence that no other animal could match. We weren't just hunting for food. We were hunting for resources, for hides, and for territory. And we were hunting with a speed and efficiency that the sloth, a creature of ponderous movements and a slow-motion world, could not have adapted to. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The sloth's sheer size, which was its greatest defense against other predators, may have made it a prime target for early human hunters. A single sloth would have provided an immense amount of meat and hide a caloric jackpot that would have fed a tribe for weeks. It was a slow, easy target, a walking feast that couldn't run, hide, or fight effectively against a coordinated group of spear-wielding hunters. It was a tragic, almost unfair mismatch of evolutionary abilities. Historians still argue whether humans were the primary driver of the sloth's extinction, or if we simply delivered the final blow to a species already doomed by climate change. Was the sloth a victim of a changing environment, or was it a victim of a new intelligent predator? It's an open, scholarly debate that reminds us that our own history is intertwined with the lives and deaths of the creatures that came before us. You watch the sloth, oblivious to the coming storm, as it forages for a meal. You see a glint of metal from a flint spearhead, and you hear the soft whisper of a thrown spear. It's a sad, quiet, and brutal moment. The sloth's foraging journey, its lifelong quest for sustenance, is about to come to a sudden final end. The ultimate irony is that its own lush larder, the world that once sustained it, had now become a battlefield, and it was the unsuspecting casualty. You followed the giant sloth on its immense journey, a life dictated by the rhythm of seasons, the challenge of its environment, and the slow march of climate change. You've seen it adapt, overcome, and survive for millions of years. But now, as you watch that final tragic scene unfold, you realize that all of that evolutionary success was for naught. The sloth, a creature of such profound endurance, is about to fall to a new unexpected threat. Its death isn't just the end of a single life. It's the end of an entire chapter, an ecological collapse that signals a profound shift in the world. As the sloth falls, its massive body hitting the ground with a sickening thud, the silence that follows is more deafening than any sound. The world you've come to know is changing, and you're watching the final moments of a great ecological tragedy. The extinction of the giant sloth, you realize, wasn't a single event. It was a domino effect, a series of compounding disasters that led to a final, fatal blow. Mainstream historical fact, the Pleistocene extinction event, which saw the disappearance of a vast number of megafauna, including the giant sloth, was a complex phenomenon. It was driven by a combination of factors, a deadly cocktail of climate change, which altered habitats and food sources, and the arrival of humans who exerted a new and unprecedented predatory pressure. The sloth, a creature that had survived for millions of years, simply couldn't adapt to this 1-2 punch of environmental and biological change. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The extinction of the giant sloth had a ripple effect across its entire ecosystem. Without a massive herbivore to disperse seeds and clear out undergrowth, many of the plants that relied on the sloth for their survival would have struggled. Some scientists believe that a number of plant species from that era went extinct shortly after the sloth, a silent botanical tragedy that went unnoticed. It's a reminder that every creature, no matter how big or small, plays a crucial role in the health of its ecosystem. When one piece of the puzzle is removed, the entire picture starts to fall apart. Historians still argue whether the sloth's extinction was a slow, agonizing process or a sudden, dramatic event. Did the species dwindle over thousands of years, or was it a rapid, catastrophic collapse that happened in a few short centuries? It's an open, scholarly debate that underscores the difficulty of dating extinction events with precision. As you stand over the silent, still form of the giant sloth, you realize its final meal was a testament to its tenacity, a last effort for a creature that never gave up. But in the end, its lush larder, its world was no longer its own. It was a world of ice, a world of humans, and a world where a creature of its scale simply could not survive. The mystery of the sloth's larder wasn't just about what it ate. It was about the disappearance of that food, a disappearance that led to the extinction of an entire species. You've witnessed the end of a great journey, the final poignant moments of a creature that once ruled a world of giants. The giant sloth is gone. Its immense form has returned to the earth to become part of the very soil it once foraged on. But its story, you realize, isn't just a tale of extinction. It's a lesson, an echo from a time that is both incredibly distant and frighteningly close. As you stand in this quiet, changed landscape, a world now devoid of its most magnificent creatures, you can't help but feel a profound sense of loss. But you also feel a deep sense of understanding. The ghost of the sloth's lush larder is everywhere. In the fossils we find, in the coprolites we analyze, and in the scientific debates we have. Its story reminds us that every species, no matter how big or how seemingly indestructible, is part of a delicate and complex web of life. The sloth's extinction was a slow, agonizing process, a perfect storm of climate change and human impact, a warning that our actions, no matter how small, can have catastrophic, unforeseen consequences. Mainstream historical fact: the extinction of the Megatherium and other megafauna of the Pleistocene had a profound and lasting impact on the global ecosystem. Without these massive herbivores to shape landscapes and disperse seeds, entire plant communities would have shifted, and a new kind of world would have emerged, a world that we now inhabit. We are living in the direct aftermath of a global ecological collapse that happened tens of thousands of years ago. This leads to a quirky or fringe tidbit. The giant sloth's legacy isn't just in the fossil record, it's in the myths and legends of early human cultures. Some anthropologists believe that stories of great, hairy, man-like beasts like Bigfoot or the Yeti could be a kind of inherited cultural memory of a time when creatures like the giant sloth roamed the earth. It's a testament to the profound impact these animals had on our ancestors, a fear and a fascination that has been passed down through the generations. Historians still argue whether the sloth's extinction was an inevitable result of a changing world or a tragedy that could have been avoided. Was it a natural part of a long evolutionary cycle, or was it a preventable disaster, a direct result of our own burgeoning success as a species? It's an open, scholarly debate, and the answer, you realize, is probably somewhere in the middle. The sloth's passing reminds us that we are not the only creatures that have shaped this planet. We are just the latest. You feel the air around you grow still, the sounds of the prehistoric world fading into a soft, distant hum. The image of the giant sloth, its immense, shaggy form, fades in your mind's eye, replaced by the faint glow of your screen. The journey is over. The mystery of the sloth's larder has been solved not with a definitive answer, but with a series of questions, a trail of clues that lead us back to our own time. The noise of the jungle fades. The ancient humid air becomes the cool, conditioned atmosphere of your room. The rustle of giant prehistoric leaves becomes the soft white noise of your fan. You are safe. You are back. The world outside your window is a testament to the world the sloth left behind, a world that is now ours. But remember the lesson of the sloth, that even the largest, most powerful creatures can be undone by a combination of forces. And remember that we too are part of this delicate balance. So rest now. The journey is over. The giants are gone, but their echoes remain a silent, powerful reminder of a world that once was. Sleep now. Sweet dreams.